How's it going, Jets fans? Happy July 4th. Hope you are all having a great time with your families, friends, and loved ones. Obviously, fun day celebrating independence of this country. But ultimately, it's a Jets day as well. Everyone loves to talk about the Jets these days. A lot of up-and-coming players, very fun, exciting. And today we want to take a look at a couple of offensive personnel packages that we could see in the 2022 season that could be really intriguing and exciting for this Jets team. Mike LaFleur definitely has the capability to get creative on offense, has a lot of the great personnel you need to do these things. And we're going to discuss four different personnel packages that we could see that really open up this offense and keep opposing defenses honest. Before we do so, Ryan, how you do today, my friend?
Doing well, Alex. Happy 4th to you as well. I appreciate it. And it just to really get away from like the traditional 12, 21, 11 personnel packages that, most teams typically run. I think that, we've spoken on the multiplicity at which these running backs, tight ends, the receivers all offer. And I think that there's some unique packages that Michael LaFleur can put together, and excited to really just go over a couple of, outside the box ideas that we had to share.
Absolutely. So let's dive into the first one. The first one is going to be two running back sets, right? So you got Breece Hall and Michael Carter. We've discussed these guys at, extent. And Breece Hall was my favorite running back in this draft class. In fact, a lot of people think he's going to be the best running back in terms of production from this recent draft class. And, he has workhorse potential. He's a guy that had a lot of reps last year for Iowa State. And I think that, he can be an electrifying player for the Jets. And I think he could be that first, second down type of guy. I'd love to kind of see them utilize these two players like a Nyheim Hines and Jonathan Taylor split. Like Michael Carter comes in to give Breece Hall that little bit of rest, but he's also a really good third down back. And if a 2-minute drill is upon you, you want Michael Carter on the field. But I also think Michael Carter is like a good player where I don't even think you can hold him to a Nyheim Hines role, which is why we're going to discuss getting those two guys on the same field at the same time and what you could do with them. There was one awesome Madden play I always love to run with two running backs in the backfield, and they would go out and they'd basically just run crossers, or they'd basically run to the line of scrimmage and run crossers opposite of each other. And there was always one of them open. And I think you could do a lot of really good things in terms of attacking the seams, those little quick out screen passes, bubble screens, with the running backs. And you can do so much with them because they're also great receivers. Like, they don't drop the pass. They are very, very active in that regard. Michael Carter has great hands, as we've seen, but Breece Hall has a really great hands as well, coming from the collegiate level. But, how do you see these guys getting involved? Maybe even as just in the running game, having two backs back there, maybe you have one of them lead blocking for another, whatever it might be. How do you see these two guys getting involved in these two running back sets?
For sure. So this has really been like a talking point, this idea with two backs on the field for the Jets for, from the fan base for some time. When you look back to like Matt Forte and Bilal Powell, Le'Veon Bell and Ty Montgomery, the Jets have had running backs who are really natural receivers. And once again, here with Breece Hall, Michael Carter, like you were just speaking on, these guys, they can run routes. They've got soft hands. And to me, like, why not really throw a challenge at defenses pre-snap, make Zach Wilson's life easier from a, pre-snap matchup standpoint, get an idea on man or zone coverage, and really get these guys in positions to just manufacture touches, in a unique way. And I think what you were saying there at the end, there's ways to get both of these guys probably in the backfield. And, if Zach Wilson's in the gun, they're both split, to each side, or if you have one out in the formation, in the slot, out wide, whatever it may be. I think that ultimately, just with the fact that both of these guys can run and catch so naturally, why not just try and find ways to, like I said, get defenses off balance a little bit, give Zach Wilson a bit of an advantage pre-snap. And really, you have two talented football players. Why just put them in a box to where one is only playing first and second down, one is only playing third down, or you designate this series to Hall, that next series to Carter. Just find ways to really get the maximum production possible out of them both.
Absolutely. So Breece Hall last year for Iowa State had 302 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns. Michael Carter both had 36 receptions, had 325 yards, did not have a receiving touchdown, but had a 65.5% catch rate. Two good players. They're capable of producing in that fast set, and I think it would be pretty fun to watch them both on the field and what they can do to confuse defenses, especially attacking the seams and doing some fun stuff there, getting some blockers out in front on those screen passes. But the next one is really interesting. 4 wide receivers, right? Like you're spreading the offense out. You're getting 2 guys on both sides. And really just opening up space, that's kind of how you look at the Kansas City Chiefs, even the Buffalo Bills. They love to spread their offenses out, get their playmakers into space and let them work. When you're spreading a defense out like that, it opens up a lot more space so you can get more creative with your routes, especially against specific types of corners, specific teams that run specific types of strategies and schemes. If you're playing a zone, if you're playing cover 3, you want to attack those seams. Rather, you could do the same thing with cover 2, those hole shots in cover 3 on the boundary. There's a lot of ways to expose these zone coverage based teams. A lot of teams are kind of going towards man simply because, they want to be more aggressive, generate more pass rush. And, that's kind of what you see with like Wink Martindale's defense, even in Miami, with Brian, used to be Brian Flores and Patrick Graham with the Giants last year. So a lot of these teams, wanted to go in the direction of man coverage. Sometimes you just don't have the personnel to do it. But, when you spread out your offense, it really gives you a lot more space to work with. And, as long as your offensive line can hold up and protect your quarterback, it can be extremely lethal. Especially with those dagger routes. I love, one of my favorite route concepts is those seam, those slot receivers were just running a seam route straight up the middle. And then those boundary receivers cutting in like a dagger motion, and it hitting them across the middle. Corey Davis was really good on those last year. I'd love to see them get more involved in that. And then using Elijah Moore and Garrett Wilson in their presence to just draw defenders out of space. So there's a lot of really cool stuff they can do, these 4 wide concepts. But, what makes you think that this could be a very successful system for the Jets to run next season?
For sure. So it was something that LaFleur started to use a little bit down the stretch when Braxton Berrios really started to heat up. And to me, with him being back, Garrett Wilson now in the mix, and having Elijah Moore and Corey Davis, why not, similar to what I was saying with Hall and Carter, why not just get all 4 of these guys together on the field at the same time? Most teams are traditionally playing with 3 corners. So again, from a matchup standpoint, is the team going to put a 4th corner out there? Are they going to, put a safety on a guy to where it's a real mismatch for one of the receivers? Or if not, like you said, you're obviously going to get an idea on if it's zone coverage pre-snap. So I think with all 4 of those guys, whether you want to split them 2 by 2, have a trip set to one side of the formation, try and get Elijah Moore, Garrett Wilson, Braxton Berrios, and Corey Davis all on the field together, and really just give Zach Wilson as much speed and, big play threat ability on the outside as possible.
Absolutely. So how can the Jets get their tight ends involved? That's the next element to this offense. Talked about the running backs a little bit, getting them more creatively involved, and then spreading the offense out with the receivers. But, what happens when you have all these great tight ends? You got Jeremy Ruckert, you got Tyler Conklin, you got CJ Uzuma, like so much talent here. You have to get them all involved somehow. So why not throw in some 3 tight end sets here? And this is a really interesting one because there's a lot of different things you can do in 3 tight end sets, right? You have a lot of blockers, right? If you're lining them up in line, let's say you maybe even put one in the slot, like a jumbo, like he's put CJ Uzuma in the slot and really attack the seams. You can do a lot with the play action game, because now you have a lot of blockers on the field. And if you play action, they're probably going to be thinking, okay, the probability of them running the ball here with 3 tight ends on the field is high. So if you run a little bit of play action, you can attack the seams with CJ or Tyler Conklin. Even Ruckert has good hands. You could run the football. Now you've got a lot of good athletic blockers out on the field who can make things happen, and your running backs have a lot of space. When you're looking at 3 tight end sets, like what are you expecting them to do? Do you think that this is something that they could actually utilize in 2022? Personally, I think they have the talent to do it. I expect to see a lot more 2 tight end sets than 3, but maybe short goal line situations, you have all these different tight ends running routes, pretty hard to stop them.
I think occasionally on first down, maybe you could get all 3 of these guys on the field. Obviously, with Conklin and Uzama, you're expecting immediate impacts. And I think Rucker definitely is a blocker, has what it takes to come in and contribute right away. So, why not on first and 10, every now and then, really get all 3 of these guys on the field. Obviously, to LaFleur's system that a fullback is, pretty involved. And I think Ruckert has that flexibility to really be utilized as a fullback in a way. And really what you were saying, the fact that all 3 of these guys can run and pass block, it really keeps defenses off balance with the play action pass game for Zach. And, I think just having all 3 of those guys out there is really, obviously they can move guys in the running game, and, really from there off of play action, you could really get some good things going. And I think it's definitely another good way to just maximize getting all 3 of these guys on the field.
100%. And the last one that we have in mind is bunching this formations. Like if you can get, you got really athletic guys like Moore and Wilson, then you throw Corey Davis into the mix, you can get a lot of really cool bunch formations going. And I love the bunch formation because you can kind of set guys up a little bit behind, in the Z spot or the X, and then you have, you could have 2 X's and a Z. It's really fun to see how you can mix and match all of these talented players. And then utilize them in a myriad of different ways, right? Like if you have, for example, one thing I'd love to see the Jets do is bunching like in the slot, maybe all those three guys, and then having Elijah Moore just take a step back, collect a screen pass, and have your blockers out in front, have your tight ends come out to the second level, have your tackles come out to the second level. Or you could just simply run, just a myriad of different route concepts from this bunch formation. And it's really hard. What makes bunch formations really, really cool is that it makes it really difficult for opposing teams, especially ones that are playing man coverage, to figure, like the defensive backs, it makes it really difficult for them to actually match up with your man, because you have guys crisscrossing all over the place. And sometimes they can get lost in traffic, and you can manufacture separation that way. Which I really like. So that's maybe something the Jets could do to just manufacture a little bit more time, a little bit more separation with their playmakers, and make it a little bit easier for Zach Wilson. But also just like exposing coverages. You're playing zone coverage and they're just dropping back. Then like if you have a very heavy zone coverage team and they're dropping back into coverage in this bunch formation, great opportunity to run a screen pass. And you'll collect some free yardage, because you're always going to get like 4 or 5 yards out of a screen pass. You're playing off ball zone. So really cool ways that the Jets can actually execute and open up this offense a little bit more by using all these talented players. They're not limited in any ways. They can go downfield. They can, execute in the screen game. They can do short to intermediate route concepts. And Zach Wilson has the arm for all of it. So, this is going to be fun. What are your thoughts on the bunch formations and how they could use these three guys, really, even throwing Braxton Berrios into the mix too?
For sure. So once again, if you're having the three receivers bunched up, you're probably having a tight end on the opposite side of formation, which once again really gives Zach Wilson a pre-snap man or zone coverage indicator, which is really beneficial. Obviously, like you were saying, the bunch formations really allow for natural separation off the line of scrimmage. You're not getting bumped as much. There's not as much press coverage. Defenses aren't going to be as aggressive. And really what you were saying from there, a lot of those mesh concepts, getting guys on crossing routes underneath, easy completions, whether it's man or stopping and sitting down in the zone coverage. I think that there's a lot of benefits to that. And once again, to really get Elijah Moore, Corey Davis, Garrett Wilson, all in favorable situations, to help Zach as well. I think it's just a good way to really kind of bunch all those guys up and, draw up some different combinations of routes.
Absolutely, guys. But if you're interested in any other like concepts, we can take a look at these in more detail. Maybe find a couple clips from last year that really kind of showcase what the Jets may do and leverage their players. And obviously they have a lot more, I guess reliability, but also a lot more confidence, with Moore having a year under his belt, Corey Davis kind of understanding what they want from him. And hopefully Zach Wilson taking the big step forward to really put this offense together, guys. But I hope you guys are having a phenomenal July 4th. Much love to everybody helping us build this community. So much love and appreciation for that. Make sure to like and subscribe as always. We'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Jets episode.